Hi there! Before we get started, a friendly reminder. The information discussed on this podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only. While our guests are knowledgeable in their respective fields, your personal situation may require unique guidance. We encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for personalized advice. Now enjoy the episode.
Welcome to another episode of AndWon Should Know, where we empower you to take the best journey of your life yet, taking care of yourself. It's all about mental health today. Yen, has there been a point in your life where you thought, okay, you might be spiraling down that very, very deep, dark tunnel?
Yeah, I think I've had a couple of instances where I've actually thought that I was going down this big dark rabbit hole. But, I find that it's, during my time, it wasn't something that was easily spoken about. You kind of just powered through. You had like your day, you sat with yourself, or you did what you needed to do in order to feel better, and then kind of decided, okay, well, that's that. You park it and then you don't think about it again. Who knows what that actually does to you in the long run? But I'm really happy to say that in this day and age, we're actually able to speak about it a little bit more. It's not so much of a faux pas anymore. It's not as taboo, which is really great because it's really normalizing the conversation around mental health.
I think it's got a lot to do with the Asian culture as well. So today I'm very pleased to have with us Karen Go. Karen, can you please tell our listeners how you are here to help?
So I've got a master's in clinical psychology. I work a lot with children and families, and do a lot of work with teenagers as well. Been doing this for more than 10 years. I started out as a behavioral therapist for children on the autism spectrum, and then gradually started working with other families with other sorts of issues. So in the work that I've done at least in the last 10 years, it's been about mental, not just autism, but families and mental health issues.
Right. It's tough when you are a mummy with children with special needs. And I'm guessing that even the mothers themselves need help, right? And is it fair to assume that these mothers are, who are in their perimenopausal stage have it a lot worse when it comes to dealing with their mental health?
Yeah, they do have a really difficult time trying to balance those symptoms and lifestyle changes, as well as, difficulties with managing families. So it does add, it becomes an added layer.
Yeah, so I can only imagine because, having to take care of the entire family, and usually the woman is the glue for the family, having to hold it together, take care of a child, and then for them to actually have to navigate their own path because there are so many different changes with your hormones that affect your mental state as well. How does that actually, is there any work that you're doing to help them navigate that together as a family? Firstly, as an individual, and then also within the family, so the family knows how to support the mother as well?
Yes. So usually in the work that I do, because I see mostly children and adolescents, these issues tend to surface a little bit more when we see teenagers, right? Because mothers, obviously they're a little bit older as well. And they're probably just about starting on that process of aging, that transition from having their regular periods to irregular, or and then complete period cessation. And in that period, we do see, teenagers who have a tough time with their parents at home. So we dig into the issues, and then when we interview parents, so it's not just moms but dads also, we realize, okay, there seems to be a lot of stress, a lot of tension. If willing, if mothers are willing, and we have more conversations with them about it, that's where we do find that, mothers are going through a difficult time in their own personal lives. And more often than not, these may be perimenopausal related. And some find it a stigma to talk about it. It takes them a while to open up. But it's there, and it does have an impact on parenting.
Yep.
Yeah.
What, in your opinion, causes these sort of emotions? I mean, aside from what I hear from my friends, I feel so burnt out. I feel so burnt out. Is it just hormonal, in your opinion?
Well, I think hormones play a really big role in it, particularly in the perimenopausal period, right? And that stage in life where hormones, your period starts and then it stops and then it slows down and then suddenly there's an increase in blood flow. So there's a lot going on for women already. So I think it does make it really difficult. And then in addition to that, if, some women, if they've had a premenstrual dysphoric disorder or postnatal depression, or if they've had a history of major depression, that tends to play a really big role in the severity of perimenopausal depression.
Oh.
I just like to pick up on the dysphoric
Premenstrual.
premenstrual dysphoric disorder.
You think about major depression,
Yeah.
it's quite similar to that with the heightened paranoia, heightened irritability, and therefore that vulnerability to suicide, suicidal ideation, attempted suicide, and that sort of thing. And it has a lot to do with hormones. It's
Right.
usually treated with antidepressants, and usually with the treatment of antidepressants, it settles.
I see.
So this is a monthly thing then. Every time a lady goes through, or
It can be.
Yeah, oh,
For some. So not everyone
Wow.
is predisposed to this, but for some it can be,
right.
yes.
Whoa, that is
really interesting.
Yeah, it's a very new term for both Andrea
Yeah.
and myself. Wow. Yeah.
Because we always get that remark coming from whether it's our colleagues or our husbands or our boyfriends. It's just that time of the month.
Yeah.
But
There is a lot
there is
more to it.
Absolutely, there's a term for it.
Wow. And you're saying that women that have in their younger days were maybe be it postpartum or experienced depression, they would be more likely to experience dysphoria in their later years.
In the later years, or quite severe perimenopausal depression.
Is there anything, because I don't think people are aware of this, is there anything that women can do to mitigate that aside from the antidepressants? Is there?
Talk therapy can help as well, but usually antidepressants would help
Would
quite
help.
a great deal, because this is about balancing hormones and chemistry in the brain.
Oh, interesting.
And it's more related to that.
Very
And
cool.
what does the family network or the support around this individual have to look out for?
It's heightened irritability.
Okay.
Okay.
Really heightened.
Really heightened.
Heightened.
Yes,
Okay.
Paranoia.
Yes.
So just erratic behavior.
Very erratic.
What if, I mean, I know that I have some women in my life that are rather erratic already. So I think the supporting network around them can be rather numb because this is
Something
their
they're so
protocol.
used to.
Yeah, exactly. This is a natural protocol already. So how does one differentiate from natural frenetic energy and then heightened irritability?
So if it's not characteristic of your friend to be that way, I suppose, or to express themselves in that way, if you notice, this is something
Yes.
different about the way she's feeling or the way that she's talking about this.
Or emoting. Yeah, that's
Yes.
interesting because I know that there are some. I know that I am sometimes surrounded by quite type A personalities. So, their natural disposition is already on a certain level. So I think a lot of people that are within their supporting circle are already, okay, well, this is default, so I'm not going to really do anything or panic, or that's just who they are. But I guess it's good to be, more aware to make sure that you're noticing the nuances of perhaps some irregularities
Yes.
that are not necessarily predisposed or normal, shall we say. Do you have any women in your life that are, or
Me?
Yeah.
Me in the past 2 years, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I think for the most part of my life, I've always been quite a calm person. But and then in the last 2 years, I'm recognizing that I may have had, some of those bursts of heightened
Irritability,
heightened,
agitation, and
yes,
irritability.
heightened agitation, heightened irritability.
Right.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Wow. And has well, because you are see, because you are generally calm.
Yeah.
So how did your network
I have no idea.
help you out or support
I'm
you? Or they
wondering
just
now. I'm really
what they were
wondering now.
going through?
But the thing is, Pierre, like I said, always came along with me when we went to see my gynae, so he sort of understood
Yep.
at which phases I was experiencing what.
Yep.
Of course, he's always been very silent. Whatever happens in the home stays in the home,
Right.
heightened irritability or
Yes,
not.
exactly.
So now I'm thinking back and I'm going, they must have thought I was just like, going berserk or something.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, but
That is true. I think it must be. Like I said, it's such a new term. I think I'm generally quite aware. So the fact that I didn't even know that there was an actual
term
term for it. It's. I'm sure it's going to be new to the audience as well. Wow, that's pretty amazing. And you were talking a little bit as well about talk therapy. Is this something that one can do with just their closed network of friends, like just regular talking, or is this something that needs to be clinically assessed? Yeah.
I think, you know, with therapists, the difference is you've got someone looking at this from a different perspective, perhaps, from a third person perspective. And therapists generally we're not supposed to be too emotionally involved in a
Right.
client's life. There is still some sort of
Disassociation.
distance and professional distance as
Right,
well,
right,
which
right.
allows us to really sort of come at this with evidence-based perspectives. So that's one. The other thing is, when we're able to provide that platform, that space to safely explore very deep issues, depending on the rapport, but usually the rapport is really good and clients feel really safe in that relationship, not just, well, it's just a therapeutic relationship and in that little space that we offer up in therapy, in our therapy rooms. Clients delve deeper into issues, and sometimes these are skeletons in the closet, which they may not necessarily share
Right.
with even perhaps best friends.
Right.
And so, sometimes with that being out in the open,
Yeah.
in a safe and contained environment, clients do feel a sense of relief, or at least to knowing that this is a space I can now talk about these skeletons
Right.
and not have
Like a
to
safe space.
hold it in, not to suppress.
So a family member can push and go, let's go and speak to someone, let's go, we need to seek help. And that person could just go, no, there's nothing wrong with me. There's just nothing wrong with me. You guys are the ones with the problem. You are giving me the headaches. You are the ones not contributing to the household and helping me. I have to take on everything. Now, if one cannot even recognize that they are the ones that are going through these highs and lows, how do you get them there?
That's really difficult. And sometimes with family with the best of intentions will encourage and say it's fine. But, at the same time, sometimes that in itself can come across as, I'm the problem.
That's a
9
really
out of
good
10
tip.
times do women who are so deep already, come to a realization that I need help.
I can't pin it to the statistics,
Yeah.
but at least in the work that I do, when I work with mothers, right, and we're talking about women specifically, when I work with mothers and unpack, where some of their responses might be coming from, I know, I might say, I know you're doing this for the benefit of your child, and I'm wondering where a response like that might be coming from, that helps mothers open up a little bit more. And then that gives me the opportunity to dig into it a little bit more, depending on that trust as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And if willing, I might make a suggestion, is this something you might want to work with a little bit more with a therapist? And then I might offer up some referral
Yes.
suggestions from there.
Yes.
So taking it really gently. So that's one way.
Yes. And I can see this happening when ladies come in with postpartum depression. So
Yes.
we're not
Yes.
just talking about the age group where they're in their peri or postmenopausal stages,
Yeah.
but also women who have given birth.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
And it's so detrimental that they actually seek help because they're dealing with babies who are not sleeping. There's,
Yes.
the whole, I have to get up to feed in 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
And their whole circadian rhythm is just
there's
Yes.
so taxed right after you have a child. It's everything gets, especially as a first-time mom, right?
Yes.
Everything is turned upside down.
So in cases like this, do the husbands, are they the ones normally that say, okay, let's go and speak to someone?
So it can be coming from a best friend, it can be coming from husband or mother, mother-in-law, people who interact intensely with her.
Okay.
And they're usually concerned.
Of
Right?
course,
So I
of
would
course,
say
yeah.
it would be coming from someone that really cares, someone that sees them frequently and sees the difference and really cares. So it may not necessarily be the husband.
Is postpartum depression dependent on a lady's age, though? Do women who give birth younger not experience this, and does it get gradually worse as they go up in numbers and age?
They can, younger women giving birth, let's just say someone in their 20s, right? I think any woman who would have just given birth is vulnerable to postpartum depression. You think about the lack of sleep, waking up every 2 hours to feed when you've got a baby that's colic, or, life circumstances if you're a single mother all of a sudden. So I think any woman having given birth, regardless of the number of times, would be predisposed already to postpartum depression.
Regardless
Comes
of
down to-
age.
Yes. So it comes down to support, management,
Yeah.
and so.
Could you, Karen, take us a little bit through what it looks like to seek help from a therapist? Because I know a lot of people, would probably like to, but don't know what it looks like to go through therapy. What does that picture look like if someone were to embark on that journey?
Wow. Different ways to look at this, I think. Because I work a lot with children and teenagers, the referral tends to come from either schools making a suggestion to parents, parents themselves going through certain transitions in their marriage, children themselves, asking for help.
Right.
Yes.
So it comes in different forms. And for some people, because I also work with young adults, teenagers coming out into the young adult phase in their early 20s and also late 20s. Social media is they're so exposed to social media. They are very aware of mental health issues. And so they do come forward and say, this is what I'm concerned about, and this is what I want to talk about. So it comes in different
forms.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
different forms.
That's really
So we've
good
gone to the menopausal women, younger women, and mothers who have given birth. Maybe let's delve into young adolescents. We're seeing the cases of suicide attempts, successful suicides, taking their own lives, rising in Singapore. How do we know that our child is going through a bad state of mind or a darker state of mind?
Again, it's in younger children, it's easier to identify because of the extreme change in behavior. It's sudden and extreme change in behavior. They either become very withdrawn or extremely active. So it can go in
Wow,
extremes.
either way.
Yes,
Polar
either
up.
way.
Okay.
Oh,
And then you've got the preteens, right? And then the younger teenagers, and then the ones that are sitting right in the middle of teenhood, and then the later teens. So
Yes.
they're all processing this quite differently.
Hormonal changes as well.
Hormonal changes. That's right. That's right. With teenagers, what we do see is sometimes they may become very, very sullen. The ones that mask their symptoms very well tend to be the ones that seem to be gregarious, happy-go-lucky,
Yeah.
optimistic, perceived to be optimistic. They're doing well
Yeah.
at school. But when they go home,
Yeah.
they may be locking themselves up in the room. And it's a completely different landscape, I think,
Wow.
home and school, because they're masking really, really well.
Right.
But one of the giveaways would be things like, when they start giving away things that are very important to them.
Oh.
Maybe a stuffed toy. It can be anything.
So they're detaching themselves.
Right.
They
Yeah.
start detaching themselves
Yes.
from
They
things
start,
that mean a lot to them.
Yes. Or they may write notes to friends, thank you for this. And, they really appreciate their friends, and they write thank you notes, or
Right.
sorry if I've wronged you. So in some of these letters that friends receive,
Yeah. It's almost like they've made a conscious decision already in their mind that they might want to leave this
to
world.
say goodbye. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is what they're kind of tying up loose ends.
That's right.
Yeah.
And what happens then to the family members, the friends who've been left behind? Is it important then that they seek help themselves?
I would encourage that they seek support if they're unable to receive support from the community.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about community support,
Yeah.
right? Is that shared pain, shared suffering, and I would encourage that, either as a family or as individuals, they seek support.
Yes.
Whatever support, however they perceive support to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in your opinion, the likelihood of such an occurrence in the family happening again?
It can happen again, yes.
It can happen again.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's difficult.
It's
very difficult.
And this practice of just sweeping things under the carpet, right?
Yeah.
It's from a little pile of God knows what, and then it just erupts into something really big, and that might be the ice of the tip of the iceberg when things start to spiral.
Yeah.
Another thing also is, I don't know if it's Asian culture or not, but our parents, for me, even
Yes.
growing up, if I went to my mom and I said, "Mom, this is happening," and she'd go, "No lah, you'll be okay.
Yep.
No lah, nothing. Don't think so much about it.
Yeah,
I pray about
exactly.
it.
Yep.
Just pray about it. You'll be okay."
Yep.
We tend
Super
to do that a lot,
dismissive.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So should parents be so dismissive?
Yeah.
Because all their kids are getting nowadays is what they see, what they hear, and what they learn from on social media.
Yeah.
So the
this
kids
is-
are recognizing the problems themselves, and
Okay.
they're bringing it to the parent.
Yeah. And then there's
this
that
is-
gap.
Yeah, hey, this is such a tough one, we think about our parents and grandparents. They went through a very different
Yes.
period of time, right?
Yep.
We're talking about World War, riots, specifically in
Yes.
Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
So they're coming with their own stories, their own narratives,
Mm-hmm.
and they're looking at what young people are going through these days and comparing that to what they went through. And so therefore, it's okay, this is nothing.
Yes.
I
So
mean,
I
a
think-
bomb as
Yes.
compared to you didn't do so good in school today,
Yeah.
or you didn't make, I don't know, the team.
Yeah. Or like your
Yeah.
girlfriend seems to be ignoring you for some odd
Yes.
reason this week.
Yeah.
Right. It's something.
So our grandparents had great resilience.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
In comparison, it's really.
Yes.
That said, I think we both grew up very resilient, very strong. We achieved a lot in life, also knowing that because of the hardships that we went through growing up,
Yeah.
it didn't break us. It made us stronger individuals.
Right.
Yeah. So support is very important. Like you said, whether it comes from your friends, whether it comes from siblings, that is something really important. I need my tissue.
Yes. it's good that you got it right
Yeah,
there.
absolutely.
Yeah, it is. Support is
Absolutely.
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's something that should be encouraged as well, because I think, as I see just through my own eyes, because I'm kind of at that bridge of, so I didn't grow up with social media, but later on, in our day and age now, we do see heavy reliance on social media. Just having communities that you build around you. Like in Canada, I always had a very close network of friends that became my family because my family wasn't in Canada. So I think having a conversation around building that strong network of people around you that are your ride or dies is absolutely important, because if you don't have that, and I think sometimes people don't know that they need that, and when you don't have that support, it's very difficult to navigate the dynamics of the world that we live in today.
Yes. Say, particularly in Chinese cultures,
Yeah.
right? It's love and care doesn't come in the form of
Of a hug,
let's
or
talk
even
about how you
Yes.
feel.
we're so lacking in that.
Yeah.
It's true.
In Chinese cultures,
Mhm.
it comes in the form of, have you had enough to eat?
Yes.
You have a roof over your head,
Mhm.
you've got clothes to wear, you can go to school. This is love.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would say that communication piece, that checking in, what's going on for you, that piece is not, it doesn't come naturally.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think people are more aware now. Parents, there are a lot of younger parents, and they are also, because they are more aware, they know how to do this with their children. So I have hope.
Yeah.
I have a
good.
lot of hopes
That's good.
for the younger generation now, that they can grow to be more attuned to
Yeah.
themselves,
Yeah.
and understand
Yeah.
what communication really means in families.
And I see that in my sister now, where she, having kids of her own, she remembers to always say, especially now that they're in university, but she remembers to always tell them, "I love you." Something that I never heard from my mom when I was growing up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yes.
very Chinese
Yes.
way to emote.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. Is you can go to school, you've got clothes
Yep.
on your back, you've got a home to come back to, there's food on the table.
Sure.
That's love.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
did
That's
all
love.
of that.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true.
Exactly.
Exactly.
right.
It's so
That's
true.
right.
I love you, my child.
I know. Very true.
Gorilla juice. Good stuff.
It's good stuff.
I wanted to ask you something. Is getting too much information on social media good for children? Because like us, right, adults, Dr. Google is our best friend. Everything we are hearing, we're learning, we attribute it to Dr. Google.
Okay.
What about kids? How does that impact them?
Younger kids, teenagers are very, very susceptible, very impressionable, and therefore susceptible to all kinds of information, all kinds.
Yeah.
And so, it's difficult to manage this. I think it's very difficult for parents to manage this with them
Yeah.
if trust is lacking in the relationship, if communication is therefore also lacking in the relationship. So to exercise safety with some of these crucial factors amiss, teenagers do need to be taught this idea of being very mindful of how they're navigating through social media and asking themselves very important questions like, does this make sense?
It could have a very negative
Yeah.
effect as well.
That's right.
does.
I mean, we
That's
come
right.
across teenagers taking their own lives,
Yeah.
or as they say, unaliving themselves these days, just by seeing something on social media that someone else has done it, or someone else, just a simple comment that has egged them on, and they do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have any control as to what's
Out there.
Yeah.
to anything that's put online. Parents, they have a lot of agency as to how they want to go about having these communication, having these discussions with their children. But for that to even take place, the relationship needs to be
There.
good. It
Yeah.
must be good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They need to feel, children need to feel safe in having these conversations with their parents.
Yeah.
Safe meaning, knowing that the parents are not going to overreact
Yes.
to a video.
Yes.
Their parents themselves are, again, parenting very mindfully,
Yep.
keeping their emotions in check, and
Right.
kind of taking a curious stance in this and just asking, what do you think is going on here? I mean, that creates a safe space for their teenagers to have these conversations with parents.
I think we have a lot
In
of catching
time.
up to do. We have a
Yeah.
lot of catching up to do because closure
Yeah.
for the school, the friends,
Yeah.
all that doesn't quite happen,
Right.
from what I've been told by my friends who've kids
Yes.
whose kids have gone through things like that.
Yeah.
All these little steps to help people heal
Yeah.
is so important. For me, I mean, I was a clinical psychologist myself in my earlier days,
Yeah.
and I realized it is so important to seek help, to talk, to find someone to know, to pick up cues. And I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah.
Even when I talk to my friends in general who are going through things in life, I always tell them, talk.
Yeah.
Find someone whom you can talk to, seek professional help, because you need that person who's sitting on the fence, who's got a sort of a view that
Yeah.
you might not see yourself or your partner or your child.
Yeah.
Someone who can give you good advice
Yeah.
on how to steer your life in the right direction
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
an extent.
Yeah.
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 And that piece of checking in as
Yes,
well.
checking
That's
in.
so crucial.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't realize how important just asking, just checking in, how's it going? We had that conversation the other day. How's it going?
Yeah.
How are you thinking about it? When it's left hanging,
Yeah.
more often teenagers will misinterpret that as,
Yes.
they don't care.
That's
Yeah.
right.
They just want to have that talk and then they don't care.
That's true.
But it's also it's difficult balancing that with
Yes.
when parents receive this response of I
What
don't
do I
want to
do?
talk
What
about
do
it
I do?
anymore.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
No, it's true.
but that checking in is
It's so
crucial.
It's
important.
crucial.
Yes,
Yes.
Because that shows that you actually really do care.
you're interested.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it
Absolutely.
creates that platform for more conversation.
Yes, that's true. That is
Yeah.
true. It does open it up for more conversation.
Yeah, and it's the quality of the conversation as well, right? The teenagers they tend to dislike too much direction,
Mm-hmm.
less prescription, right?
Yeah,
Less
right.
advice,
Yes.
but more just questions.
Yeah.
Be curious.
Yeah.
Giving them again, that voice to say what it is that they're thinking.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We were all there once as well, teenagers. We didn't want our moms and dads to ask
Yeah.
too many
No,
questions.
That's
It's
true.
the
It is a
same.
really, it's so
That's the thing
instinctive
that's
to be
constant.
prescriptive.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's a
No,
constant.
That's very true.
Yeah.
No, very
Okay,
good.
well, this is what our podcast is all about. So when we do this in the hope that, there's sharing, people know that
Yes.
they're not alone in this world.
Absolutely.
And that it's important that you talk about your feelings.
Yes.
And also those who are hearing them should be receptive, parents, friends, receptive to what's going on, and also find ways to help the person out. So we're so thankful for having you here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So on this podcast, we do have a section for myths because we have, as we were talking about earlier, Dr. Google that teaches us many things. So we wanted to check in with you, the professional, to debunk a few myths around psychology.
Okay.
I think one of the myths that people have around psychology is that it's negative. People don't want to talk about it. It's a faux pas, and if you've experienced something, psychologically, you've got it for life. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Okay. Stigma.
Stigma.
Stigma. Yeah. I think coming to therapy is about being able to speak to someone who is not emotionally invested in what's happening in your life, and who is therefore able to, come at these issues, presented issues, with some level of objectivity, with evidence-based information, and who knows how to ask people questions to navigate their thinking around issues, or how they see themselves. And that's what it is. It can be stress, it can be depression, anxiety, or anything really. And that's what therapy is about.
Right.
It's not about, less about, there's something wrong with you, but
Yeah.
it's more about there's something different in my life right now. And can I just speak to someone who maybe has a very different viewpoint from a friend or from a family member?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. So it's a season as opposed to this, if you're seeking help, that is something for life, right? Like you've got
Yes.
different things you're dealing with
Yes.
by season.
I always say to clients, my job is to make myself redundant in your lives.
Yes. Okay.
Eventually. So it's more about, what toolbox have you got? Let's see if we can add to it.
Yep.
And let's see if we can fine tune that.
Yeah.
Let's see how you go on your own. And great. And if at any point you think you want to circle back into having sessions again,
Yeah.
doors are open.
That's really good to know.
That's how therapy is. It's not something that is meant to be had for life.
For life.
Right.
Actually, you pretty much answered my question, because my next myth I was going to ask you, seeking professional help is just a band-aid solution to my problems. So you've answered it, because like you say, my purpose is to make sure that you are able to go on in life without having me throughout the course of your life. So
Yes.
that's a good one. Ignoring my feelings of pain and suffering will eventually just disappear. Is that a myth?
Yeah, that's aligned with suppressing. That's very much the same as suppressing.
Yeah.
Ignoring, avoiding, will eventually lead to suppressing and repressing.
Right.
It just comes out in different ways, because the problem is not dealt with.
Okay.
Okay. So it needs to be addressed. It won't just disappear on its own.
Yeah. And it can be addressed in different ways, right? It can be addressed in the form of, again, coming back to that piece of support, talking to a good friend,
Yeah.
or a really close, trusted family member, and if need be, a therapist. Yeah.
Got it.
Self-medicating to dull my feelings will make my problems go away.
Yeah. Self-medicating. There's so many different forms of self-medicating. It's not just prescription, or not prescription, but rather alcohol is a
Yeah.
form of self-medicating, for a way people self-medicate. So I would say, for example, taking the example of alcohol is a depressant. And if you're struggling with depression and drowning your sorrows in a depressant, worsens it. So that's certainly, I would say, that goes against the idea of trying to come out of depression. Yeah.
Thank you, Karen, for coming down to speak to us today about mental health. It's such a difficult topic to table, but absolutely necessary.
So necessary. So I hope we've equipped you with some tools to figure out what it is you need, whom you need to go to and speak with. Dr. Karen is right here. But yes, thank you. Thank you for being here. If you've got any questions for her, please send them through and we'll be sure to answer them. Thanks again for tuning into And One Should Know.